Welcome to Pioneer Human Services Employee Expectations Training for 2017. Let's talk about why expectations are important. It's how employees know what you want them to do, and we need to tell them your expectations. All jobs are connected to the mission, and when writing our expectations, those expectations should also be connected to the mission and the vision of our organization. As leaders, you should also be sure your unit objectives, if you have unit objectives that have been spelled out, are addressed in the expectations so employees can better understand how their jobs impact the unit and the organization as a whole. Employee is responsible for performing all aspects of their position as outlined in their job description. And now is a good time to update that if it's not accurate. For the metrics and expectations, you want to create about 3 to 7. Too many might be overwhelming to the employee, and if too many critical expectations are laid out, then none of them seem very critical. There should be adequate expectations that are manageable so the employee can feel they can be successful. These expectations will be what you review and score in next year's appraisal. You need to ensure expectations are substantial but attainable. You will monitor throughout the year to ensure the expectations are being worked on, and you'll give additional expectations if they accomplish all of their expectations. Everyone should also always have expectations they're working on. We do use our SMART goals, and this is what you need to look at with every expectation that you set out there. You need to emphasize each of these bullets in the slide. Use clear, everyday language when describing key results that you're expecting. The goal is that both the supervisor and employee have the same understanding of the expectation, and the simpler the language, the better. Describe what action will be taken, for example, to complete, reduce, or increase. Measurable. There should be relatively objective means of assessing how well an expectation is achieved. This can be based on behaviors that are observed or firsthand through reports. Attainable. Performance expectations should be challenging but not impossible. Make sure it is within the employee's authority to accomplish. Make sure the employee has the skills and knowledge to fulfill the expectation, or the employee will be given the training. For relevancy, make sure they're relevant to the vision and mission of your unit and realistic within the time period and resources available. Time-bound, all expectations have a definite start and end date. Committing to a due date allows employees to create milestones to achieve along the way. These are questions to ask about your SMART goals. Is the specific and measurable statement you have achievable? Can someone reasonably accomplish this goal? Is it realistic to expect someone to do this? The answer is yes, continue. If no, you want to revamp those expectations. How are you going to measure and communicate this to the employee? And how often are you going to communicate progress to the goal? These examples are for real estate for property management. These are the job description tasks or duties on the left side and the expectation that you're making on the right side. Notice the sample doesn't address all the job tasks. The person writing the expectation needs to pick the most important tasks and address them in the expectation. Does it fit the SMART? It's specific. Make sure the means are in place to measure these outcomes. History data should provide attainability. Is this relevant to the unit mission? Is it time-bound? I'd say yes for both of those, so this looks like a good expectation. The next one is an example of how the job description will look different than the expectations. In order to write a detailed expectation, sometimes more information is needed. This example shows some sample questions you might have depending on what bullet you choose to address in the expectation. We have expectation forms on Pianet. Please make sure you're using the correct form. You can put in the search box in Pianet expectations with an S at the end. Those two forms will come up, both the leadership and the employee expectation. Leadership refers to supervisory employees. If you have questions as to which form applies to certain employees, ask your leadership. And then here is an example of these expectations. Overall point of employing metrics is to communicate employees' progress towards certain long-term and short-term objectives. Expectation metric fields can be added or deleted with the selection buttons at the bottom of the section. When writing metrics, you need to ensure they are measurable. Those measurables should be set at the same level for everyone within the unit with the same job title. You shouldn't expect one employee to reach a goal of 90 and another to reach a goal of 70 for the same metric. We have examples that we're showing you on in what would be achievable. One would be like achieving 98% accuracy in parts packaging if you were in the warehouse, or achieving a 90% or greater customer satisfaction rating. Performance expectations for a lower level employee often define the tasks they need to accomplish to meet the expectations. If an administrative assistant is expected to assume responsibility for creating presentations, their performance expectations might mention the training classes they need to attend. For example, assume responsibility for presentations by attending a beginning PowerPoint class in quarter 1, assist with at least 3 presentations in quarter 2, attend an advanced PowerPoint class in quarter 3, and independently create at least 3 presentations in quarter 4. And make sure training requirements are available and within your budget. Everyone within PHS must possess specific core competencies. In this section, you need to give 1 to 3 examples of how this competency should be performed in the employee's position. Specifically, expectations for customer service for an RM1 may be different from quality assurance supervisor. Look at a customer service. What one example could you give that would show an employee they're successful in that area? If you are doing random calls or sending out something to show how employees are doing in customer service, those surveys would be a way to do it. You could also give people feedback on either accommodations they've received or complaints they've received about their customer service. Kites in reentry should be logged and requests answered and returned to residents within the agreed upon time frame or escalated to a case manager as appropriate. Kites will be initialed and dated by the RM that completed them on the day they're worked. An administrative role or receptionist, client-customer inquiries will be answered with the appropriate greeting and include your name. Answer promptly with the correct answers or referral information provided in a courteous and respectful manner. What would be an example for punctuality for one of your jobs? How about arriving to scheduled meetings on time and prepared, or returning from lunch on time so the next scheduled employee can go to lunch? As you can see, these are very different examples from employee competencies, and they're all required to be a great leader at PHS. Examples for leadership communication for your position include building trusting relationship with staff and managers by providing accurate, concise, verbal and written responses to their questions. Leads all assigned projects, ensuring clear, concise communication with stakeholders, project team, and senior leaders. Holds regular staff meetings, ensuring critical information or changes in process is timely communicated to direct reports. Example of ownership might be takes ownership and supports decisions from leadership by presenting as our decision when communicating these to subordinates. Puts a positive spin on changes that may be unpopular. Explains how decisions support overall business goals and mission. Example of a personal management might be measuring turnover within an acceptable range or increasing productivity. Core competencies on the form are taken from reentry. Each division may have specific core competencies, but that's not required. They should be unique and not simply repeating the PHS core competencies. If your division does choose to add core competencies, they should be standard for all employees in the division. You should receive communication from your chain of command to determine what's required in that area. The next two sections are unscored, but something a supervisor needs to pre-plan for prior to your review with the employee. You should be thinking about succession planning, skill deficiencies, and future organizational needs. Know your training budget and research available training opportunities. As you talk to employees, this should be a two-way communication. You have an opportunity to discuss what you see as opportunities for growth for them, and they have an opportunity to ask about what might be available for skills and competencies they feel they need to move ahead in the business. Professional development opportunities is a mandatory section. You should be encouraging professional growth for your employees. These could be small or large opportunities like speaking skills, presenting in an all-staff meeting. For customer service skills, shadowing the front desk for a certain period. Written skills, maybe first draft of a presentation slides. Project skills, assist another employee with a project. For technical skills, shadow another employee for a certain period of time. Take an online computer tutorial. For leadership skills, research and attend a leadership training. Organizational support is an optional section and should be discussed with the employee during the presentation of expectations. If the employee wants to add anything to this area, they should be clear on what they need and why. An example might be an employee wants to learn how to use a pivot table to assist in presentation of unit metrics in a new way. You'd want to determine if there is training or online tutorial they can participate in, what the cost is, if any, and if it could be offered and when it could be offered. You should review and consider these suggestions. If you're unable to answer the questions on availability, research or ask the employee if they're aware of resources, and then get back to the employee with answers or alternatives for them for what they're asking for might not be available. You may set interim reviews as often as you like. You should review progress of the employee on each expectation and competency. If necessary, you can further define expectations or modify the timeline. Most important, you need to assign new expectations if they become completed by the employee. Nobody should be without expectations as they work towards their goals. Although interim reviews are unscored, you should document the progress in conversations to assist you at the end of the year when you're creating the employee appraisal. It's important that the expectations are aligned with the duties, tasks, and responsibilities outlined in the job description. And it's also important that each of the components in SMART be addressed. Remember, every expectation. Have your employees' expectations ready to cover in the appraisal meeting following review of their 2016 appraisal. Remember, we also have employees sign off on their current job description at the same time. Remember to keep a copy of the appraisal and expectations on your personal network drive for future use. HR doesn't require supervisors to review expectations prior to presenting to your employee, but you do need to check with your supervisor to see if your division has a different practice. And you will submit to HR the signed 2017 expectations at the same time you submit the signed 2016 appraisal. We do need to let you know that last year we did, a random poll of expectations. We looked at 10% of the expectations that were turned in. And because that was our first year and not everybody took the training, some of those expectations fell short. We do want as many people as possible to attend this training this year or ask for specific questions. Call your HRBP if you have questions about your expectations. We will be doing that audit again this year of 10% of our expectations. And if they fall short, we will be going back to those supervisors or managers to revise those expectations so that they are meeting our goal of concise expectations that your employees can follow, that are measurable, follow a timeline, and are something that works for everyone. Thank you for attending.